I've had this BuildPro table for about a year now, and one of the things that I realized compared to my other welding tables was how much quicker it is to fixture having an accurate grid system built into the table. I would spend a lot of time with the older welding tables clamping down fixtures to hold parts at right angles to each other and checking that everything was square. And having a precise table with a grid pattern that's accurate saves an incredible amount of time for me so that I can go straight to the shop floor, immediately work out a fixture, and build a part. I design and build fine furniture made of wood and metal. I also design and build some components for Broadway shows. And that means there's quite a bit of variety in the products that we make. One day it'll be chairs, tables, casework. So being able to change fixturing strategies quickly has been a really big asset to this table. We not only use it for metalworking and welding, but also as a fixture table for woodworking, glue-ups, also layout work. This is the 38-inch by 78-inch version. My table is configured with a vertical plate here at the end, which I use for holding workpieces upright. And it's also on casters, so I can roll it around the shop if I need to change the configuration. And it's got leveling feet, as well as the table leg braces to make the whole thing really steady. These right angle plates I use a lot. I use them to hold workpieces in a vertical orientation, or also with another right angle plate aligned vertically to hold workpieces at a set height. I also use these straight edge stops to create a reference surface, or two surfaces that are at 90 degrees to each other. They also work well to create an adjustable length stop, so you can slide them in that orientation and then lock them down, in combination of course with the ball lock bolts. I use these stops quite often to create a quick 90-degree fixture or a quick reference surface. They're in two different sizes. These are actually rest buttons, but I use them quite a bit as edge stops as well. These are the Inserta clamps, which I probably use the most on the table. And these are the magnetic rest buttons, so they click down to the table. And I actually use them as step overs when I have to clamp over an object. These guys kind of help increase that clamping distance. So I use them quite a bit for that, even though they're not designed for it. These are the table mount seat clamps, and they're super handy, really fast to use. I use them a lot on the vertical plate as well. These are the Inserta clamps, which can also accept a V-pad to clamp tubing. They also have a little split ring on the top that prevents the two pieces from coming apart, but I actually flip them over like that so that the clamp doesn't fall back down on the workpiece that I'm welding when I'm changing positions. So it's kind of a little trick. These are the 360-degree clamps, and the thing I like about these is sometimes I need to clamp something that the other clamps just don't quite hit perfectly because they're on a grid system. And this one I can actually move outside of that grid system and get in the exact location that I want to be at. It also has a little key here that you can depress and flip the clamp over and use it to push or lift upwards. So all the clamps you can do that. I just happen to use these a little bit more in that configuration. And the changeover process is pretty easy. These little magnets I use quite a bit as well. They can either hold two surfaces on the same plane, or they can be used to hold a tab or a bracket in a specific location while you tack it down. And that's probably my most used tooling. I'm going to show you how I clean and care for the BuildPro table. Okay, so I'm going to show you how I get rid of spatter here. Normally what I'll do is take the safe edge of a file, put it down on the table, and just pop them off. Sometimes it leaves a little bit of a burr on the table, in which case I'll take a little bit of degreaser and some worn out sandpaper and just really lightly hit that area just to take those burrs back down. And that's it. What I do to avoid a spatter on the table is I generally will put my workpieces on these little 1/4 inch by 1 inch by 3 inch cold rolled steel spacers, and I just step the work up off the table surface 1/4 of an inch, and what that allows me to do is get right to the corner of my workpiece when I'm tacking it together, and it keeps the spatter from landing directly on the table. It's a little bit cooler by the time it touches the table, so usually the spatter doesn't really stick. And it keeps the temperature in the workpiece from transferring as readily to the table, which could cause heat distortion. So that's what I do. Here I've got a little bit of surface rust on the table, and kind of looks like somebody left their big gulp on the table and left a little ring. What I do to get rid of surface corrosion is I use a little bit of Barkeeper's Friend, which is generally used for like cleaning up pots and pans, but it's kind of a non-abrasive powder. It works pretty good for removing this stuff. I take like a piece of Scotch-Brite, put a little bit of Barkeeper's Friend on there, spray it with a little bit of degreaser to kind of make a paste, and then just work it into the table surface. Cleans it right up. After I've cleaned the surface and let it dry for a few minutes, I apply a little bit of paste wax to the tabletop. And I'm talking just a little bit, just to help keep any surface corrosion from coming back quickly. Just wipe it down on the surface. Come back about 10 minutes later and just lightly buff it with a paper towel. It keeps a nice, slick, smooth surface that resists corrosion a little bit, and it also makes spatter less likely to stick to the table in the first place. All the time spent scratching my head with the older welding table was non-billable time, and it adds up. The customer doesn't see, that you are problem solving how we were going to hold that welded assembly. If you can go straight into value-added operations, that's a big benefit.